Hello, my name is Jack Miller, and today I want to talk to you about the Urantia Book. If you've never heard of it, don't be surprised because most people haven't. Even though it's now published in about 20 some different languages, it's sold over 1 million copies, and people are reading it all around the world. It's never really been publicly advertised or promoted. It has been small word of mouth. I first started reading the book about 45 years ago. Where did it come from? Well, nobody really knows precisely. We do know that the papers started appearing somewhere in the early 1920s through a Dr. William Sadler up in Chicago. Exactly how, we don't know. We do know that there was a particular individual called the contact personality, and that person would write different things down and never knew what he was writing. He was actually kind of in his sleep. We don't know who that person is today, and I'm sure we never will because everybody that did know him has since passed away. But Dr. Sadler was intimately involved, and Dr. Sadler was an interesting person in himself in that he had written, I think it's 39 books between him and his wife Lena, and they were medical doctors, psychologists. Dr. Sadler was also quite a preacher. He had went around the Chautauqua circuits in big tent revivals at that point in time. He was a Seventh-day Adventist and a unique entity in himself, but his book name is not in the book either. The book lists its authors as entities like the bright and brilliant evening star, the Melchizedeks, the life carriers, the midway creatures, and it goes on to explain who each of these individuals are. The Urantia book is broken into 4 parts: the central and super universe, the local universe, and the history of Urantia, and then the last 700 pages are the life and teachings of Jesus. And if you really want to get a good idea of who Jesus was, what he taught, why he's here, came here, the Urantia book really does a marvelous job of explaining that. One area, just to give you an example, when in the Bible we hear about Jesus riding in Jerusalem on a donkey, and then the Last Supper and the crucifixion in just a few chapters, and actually a few paragraphs, I should say. The Urantia book spends over 100 pages from the day Jesus entered Jerusalem on that Good Friday, if you will, till the end of the crucifixion. So it really goes into a lot of depth and detail. Then it tells us a lot about the resurrection, the time he spent here afterwards, and the final ascension into heaven. Perhaps more importantly, it tells us who Jesus was before he was Jesus. Before I tell you that, I'll give you a little bit more history back into the beginning. The first part, the central and super universe, it really gives us an overview of time and space. The immensity of the cosmos. If you were to take any one of these little stars that you see back here, and that being our solar system, you'd have to expand this thing to the size of Florida to even get a grasp of how big the cosmos is. The Urantia book tells us there are 7 trillion inhabitable planets in the developing cosmos as we have it. It tells us that paradise is the geographical center of infinity, and the infinite God, the Father, it's really a one God concept that it promotes, but it does also tell us that one God was the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. The all wisdom, all knowledge, the light, the energy. In the beginning was the Word was God, the Word, the Word is frequency, and then the Spirit, and that's frequency put into action. So you've got pure knowledge with God, you've got frequency of activity, and you've got the result of activity, the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. It's kind of why 7 is so powerful a number. If you take the Father, you take the Son, You take the Spirit. There's three, the reason we think the Trinity is so powerful. But then you take the combinations, the Father and the Son, the Father and the Spirit and the Son, and then the Father, Son, and Spirit. You get that 7. And the universe really runs on 7. There's 7 orifices in the head. You got the 7 chakras, the 7 agitated mind spirits, and it continues on there. So the second part of the book is about the local universe. It tells us that Michael and the Holy Mother Spirit created the local universe starting some 5 billion years ago. And then there was a point in time where that was really about structuring the cosmos, working with power directors and other entities to get things in order so that they could really start the creative process of creating other entities, the Melchizedeks being the first and the most powerful of the entities, the archangels, and other celestial intelligences, all the way down until we get to what are called life carriers, which really brought life to our planet, and that's where it gets into the history of Urantia, or the planet Earth. The word Urantia is the celestial name for the planet Earth. And that's probably one of, the Jesus papers and that are my most enjoyable papers, but I hear other people say their favorites are the first parts of the book. So, everybody has a different part. I strongly recommend anybody that picks it up, don't try and just read it like a book to begin with. At some point, it's very valuable. I skipped around. I read part 4, part 3, part 2, part 1, and then I read the foreword of the book. And it's pretty complicated, so don't read it and start getting, well, there's some great stuff